Fox only. No items. Final destination. For many outside of Melee's competitive scene, this might as well be the tournament rule set we play on. These rules may seem a bit stringent though. Where are the mix-ups, the uncertainty, the flavor? Melee has so many beautiful, interesting, and straight up wacky stages. How can we not make the game more interesting by using them? It just turns out that Melee's nearly 2-decade-old competitive history has answers for these questions. We didn't arrive at our current rule set through arbitrary cuts or the whims of curmudgeonly sticks in the mud. We got here by learning from the mistakes of our elders and the degeneracy of tournaments of the past. Let's dive into Melee's competitive history and explore how some of Melee's weirdest competitive stages earned their bans. The earliest known rule set in competitive Melee history is the 2004 Melee Backroom or MBR rule set, for which no Smashboard post exists. However, Big House TO Juggle Guy posted a comment on a Reddit thread asking for the oldest known rule set with the 2004 competitive guidelines laid out. Notably among these rules is the lengthy stage list. In fact, unlike the narrow list we adhere to today, this list featured all stages as legal but 8. Hyrule Temple, Yoshi 64, Venom, Flat Zone, Brinstar Depths, Icicle Mountain, Fourside, and Termino Great Bay. Back then, the first stage would be selected at random between a list of, ironically, the 6 stages we use in competitive play in the modern era. Yeah, even as late as EVO 2007, the first stage of the set was decided by a random stage selection. We've come a long way. While the rule set underwent heavy and somewhat frequent changes from the MLG era in 2006 up through revival of Melee 3, most stages ended up being banned to promote a more thorough list of neutral stages, absent of side-scrolling, obnoxious hazards, or a plethora of other game-deciding features. While the current rule set features stages with some quirky aspects to them, such as Yoshi's Story, Shy Guys and Randall, or Fountain of Dreams and its shifting platforms, nothing in today's legal stages is as obnoxious as features like Brinstar's Lava or Jungle Jape's River and Claptrap. While most stages were taken off the legal list due to general discussion and game theory, there are some notable matches and runs that led to explicit evidence as to why some of these stages should absolutely be banned. While we won't be covering every single stage that ended up on the ban list, we will be going through a select few of the infamous matches that helped shape the stage list of the contemporary meta in competitive Melee. Pretty early into Melee's competitive life, many stages would make their way onto the banned list for tournament play after some heavy discussion and explosive gameplay footage exposing their weaknesses. Many levels like On It, Mushroom Kingdom 2, and Yoshi's Island featured immovable walls as well as walk-offs that carried the stage into the blast zone. These walk-offs were especially susceptible to camping as well as heavily buffing certain characters and their movesets, most notably Fox's Wave Shine. One of the earliest and most enlightening examples of one of these stages being exploited in competitive play is a match between Fox main Zelgadis, most well known for his iconic combo video Shined Blind, and Eddie, one of the most venerated Ganon mains of all time. In a single game posted to YouTube in May of 2006, Zelgadis proceeds to wave shine Eddie up the right-hand hill on Yoshi's Island, taking 3 of his 4 stocks with almost no counterplay even possible from the Ganon. Helpless, Ganon is forced off the stage into the blast zone as the stage on the right side of Yoshi's Island leads to a walk-off, affording any Fox main the opportunity to wave shine their opponent into a guaranteed kill. Although it doesn't apply to every stage that went through a ban in the tournament rule set between 2004 and 2011, Zelgadis vs. Eddie on Yoshi's Island exhibited with hard evidence that some stages simply give unfair advantages to specific characters in tournament play. In order to promote more neutral and even playstyle across the entire cast of the game, some stages absolutely could not be allowed in competitive play. 3 years later, perhaps the most infamous single game featured in this video occurred. Pink Shinobi vs. Rockrock on Congo Jungle at Genesis 1 is the pinnacle of degenerative play directly affecting the universal rule set. The off-stream best of 3 culminated in a nightmarish Game 3 in which Peach main Pink Shinobi counterpicked Ganon main Rockrock to Congo Jungle and proceeded to circle camp and platform camp the Ganondorf main for the entirety of the 8-minute match. Unfortunately for the Ganon, due to the high platforms on the sides and rotating platforms in the middle, as well as Ganon's relatively slow aerial mobility, Pink Shinobi's Peach could effortlessly float high above the stage between the platforms on opposite sides of this relatively large map, and there was absolutely nothing Ganon could do. Try as he might, Rockrock just couldn't get anything substantial started on Pink Shinobi, oftentimes struggling to reach him, and when he did manage to land a hit, Pink Shinobi was almost sure to benefit from a trade or reversal on the already struggling Ganondorf. Thanks to a hero in the crowd who casually recorded the screen of this notorious 3-game timeout, haters of the level and arbiters of a more neutral stage list had strong evidence to argue against the inclusion of Congo Jungle. Although this set caused discussion to erupt from top players regarding the legal stage list, it would not be addressed in an official Melee backroom rule set post for over 2 years. On the topic of Genesis 1, another stage was quite notably featured in Armada's run there, producing evidence leading to its eventual ban: Mute City. Armada used Mute City as his Game 2 counterpick against 3 opponents in a row, Lucky, DeShizwiz, and finally Mewtwo King, and Armada won every single one of them. Armada showcased Peach's ability to recover by floating from an incredible distance, as well as her ability to maneuver around the speeding cars. He was able to take heavy advantage of both the static and moving platforms, demonstrating exactly why the stage is an ideal counterpick for floaties, especially Jigglypuff and Peach. Additionally, the stage lacks ledges, which is a massive hindrance for characters whose recoveries rely on the ledge, like the space animals. Meanwhile, a character like Peach with her float and ability to drift with Parasol is almost completely unaffected by a lack of ledge. Another buff Peach gets from Mute City is the fact that she can chain grab fast fallers on the moving platform, a tactic Armada showed off against Lucky during their Winners Round 4 match. Armada had another game too against a Spacey on Mute City against his next opponent. Here, Armada demonstrated Peach's incredible edgeguard potential against fast fallers on the stage, as well as the massive detriment a lack of ledges can be for the space animals. Anytime Armada got him off stage, DeShizwiz struggled to make it back, and through his constant pressure at the edge, Armada made the matchup look essentially hopeless. His game on Mute City against Mewtwo King was more of the same, although Mewtwo King opted to go Marth instead of Fox on this stage. Just as he did with Lucky and DeShizwiz in the sets leading up to this one, Armada would take full advantage of the lack of ledges on this stage to stuff out Marth's recovery and net a victory over a player no one thought he stood any chance against. Although Armada's performance on Mute City didn't directly lead to the stage getting banned, many pointed to how he played Peach on the stage during his Genesis 1 Dream Run as a shining example of the downsides and limitations the stage held. The stage was simply not a neutral or, for lack of a better word, fair stage for every character in the game, heavily benefiting one class of character while undercutting the recovery of another. Fast forward to November 2010 to Revival of Melee 3, one of the most iconic tournaments to take place during Melee's most formative years. Although by this time most top-level events were almost exclusively playing on the stages legal in today's current rule set, and most stages in the game were completely banned, ROM 3 still featured Congo Jungle, Brinstar, and Rainbow Cruise as counterpicks in both singles and doubles. Let's rewind. Mewtwo King is waiting in the winner's side of Grand Finals, a spot in the bracket he is entirely used to occupying during this era. On the other side of the bracket is an angry Dr. PP, hungry after a grueling rematch with Kirby Kaze in Losers Finals for his chance to take down a venerable god of the game and win it all. Mewtwo King and PP battle it out over a tense and close 9 games. The second set is now 2-2, and PP has the stage counterpick for their final game. In one of the most iconic moves in the history of competitive Melee, PP counterpicks Mewtwo King to Rainbow Cruise, and he puts on an absolute clinic on how the stage and its hazards function. Navigating deftly over the ever-shifting terrain and taking advantage of the stage's relatively small blast zones in certain areas of the side-scrolling level, PP sends off the final game of the set with one of the most legendary combos of all time.
One stock lead, like PP still has to play his heart out right now. Yo! Yeah, there it is! Yeah!
Winning his first major, PP's legacy as one of the all-time greats of the game was only beginning, and his gameplay would go on to influence the greater Melee rule set indefinitely. And then there were 6. At this point, Melee's stage list feels locked in stone, but for years, stages like Congo Jungle, Mute City, and Rainbow Cruise, now condemned to casual gameplay, were key parts of the competitive Melee scene. When it comes to rules, everything happens for a reason. These stages weren't removed just because people felt like it. These stages got the axe because players like Pink Shinobi, Armada, and Dr. PP showed in the bracket just how their qualities could be exploited. Are there any stages you can think of that have a clear example in tournament play that led to it being banned that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe to PGstats for more analytical Smash content.